Get ready for one of the most bizarre and mind-boggling stories you'll ever hear. This is the incredible and tragic tale of June and Jennifer Gibbons, two identical twins from Wales who became known as the Silent Twins. Their story is one of extreme isolation, an unbreakable bond, and a mysterious journey that left the world in awe. The Gibbons twins were born on April 11, 1963, in the small town of Bexhill-on-Sea, England, to Caribbean parents. But despite being born into a family, the two girls lived in a world of their own. From an early age, they became inseparable, not just as sisters, but as two souls so entwined that they communicated with each other in a secret, incomprehensible language. They refused to speak to anyone else, even their parents, teachers, or classmates, and lived in complete silence, apart from each other. Their silence wasn't simply a matter of being shy or introverted. It was a deep and profound bond that seemed to grow more intense as the years went on. The twins spoke only to each other in their own made-up language, which was so complex that even their parents and doctors couldn't understand it. In fact, the two girls created this language when they were very young, and it became their only means of communication. This created an eerie and unsettling atmosphere around them, one that puzzled their school teachers, doctors, and even family members. As they entered their teenage years, the isolation and their refusal to communicate with anyone else became even more pronounced. They had very few friends, and their relationship became their entire world. They kept to themselves, spending hours on end writing stories, creating elaborate fantasies, and even using their language as a way to escape from the harsh realities around them. As time passed, the twins' strange behavior became harder to ignore. Their refusal to speak to anyone else beyond each other raised alarms, leading to several interventions. In 1971, when the twins were just 8 years old, they were admitted to a psychiatric institution for the first time. The diagnosis? Selective mutism, a condition where individuals, often children, refuse to speak in certain social situations. However, in the case of the Gibbons twins, this was just the tip of the iceberg. At this point, the world had no idea just how intense their relationship was about to get. Their bond was so deep that it seemed like they could read each other's minds. However, over time, it became clear that their obsessive connection was spiraling into something much darker. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, their extreme isolation and silence led to more troubling behavior. The Gibbons twins began acting out, turning to petty crime and increasingly erratic behavior. They committed small, seemingly random acts of vandalism and theft. But it wasn't until 1981 that things took a far more sinister turn. In 1981, the twins were involved in the act that would forever change their lives. They set fire to a nearby school and were later caught and convicted for the act. This was no ordinary prank or teenage rebellion. This was a cry for help, a desperate act in the midst of their growing turmoil. Following this, the twins were sent to Broadmoor Psychiatric Hospital, one of the most infamous high-security hospitals in the UK, to be treated. However, their bond continued to intensify behind the institution's walls. They refused to speak to anyone except each other, leading doctors and staff to label them as a psychological enigma. The story takes a heartbreaking turn in 1993. After years of isolation, medical treatment, and confinement, Jennifer Gibbons began showing signs of illness. Over time, her health deteriorated dramatically, and it soon became clear that she was in a critical state. In 1993, Jennifer Gibbons passed away suddenly at the age of 29. Her death was ruled as heart failure, but many still believe it was the result of a deep emotional shock. Her sister June was utterly devastated. But here's where the story gets even more mind-blowing. June, who had been inseparable from her twin for nearly 3 decades, was now left alone. The intense bond between the two had been so powerful that many believe Jennifer's death broke June emotionally. Following Jennifer's passing, June was released from Broadmoor, and she went on to live a life of reflection and mourning. Despite her release, the impact of the twin connection, the silence, and the psychological toll of those years never truly left her. Since the death of her sister, June Gibbons has led a relatively quiet life. But her story still resonates as one of the most tragic and bizarre psychological cases in history. June went on to write a book called The Silent Twins, detailing their extraordinary, difficult journey and shedding light on their experiences. In many ways, the twins' story remains a tragic reminder of the power of human connection, the dark sides of isolation, and the sometimes terrifying consequences of being trapped in your own world. Their tale has since inspired books, documentaries, and films, keeping the legacy of the Silent Twins alive for future generations to understand and reflect upon. June and Jennifer Gibbons' story is more than just a tale of psychological complexity. It's a story of love, loss, and tragedy, a reminder of the deep and sometimes haunting bond between twins. It's a story that will stay with you long after you've watched this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more mind-blowing true stories from around the world. Yours awesomely.